There are 10 things Americans are still spending money on in 2026 that I honestly don't think are worth it anymore. And I'm not talking about saving a few dollars on groceries. I'm talking about cars, investing fees, housing, technology, food, and everyday financial decisions that can quietly keep you from building wealth. Because if you're trying to save money, invest, grow your net worth, and eventually become financially independent, every dollar has a job. And when you spend $100 on something you don't really need, you're not just losing $100, you're also losing everything that $100 could have become. That's opportunity cost. And this is where personal finance gets interesting, because some of the purchases I'm about to talk about look completely normal. Millions of financially responsible people make them every year. But when you actually run the numbers, some of them start looking very different. Let's start with one that can quietly drain your bank account every single week: food delivery. It's 8:30 at night, you're exhausted, you don't want to cook, so you open a delivery app. You see a $15 meal. $15 doesn't sound like a big financial decision. You click order, then you reach checkout. Suddenly it's $18, then $21, then $24. Then you add a tip, and that $15 meal is now almost $30. Here's what makes this dangerous for your finances. It's not one $30 dinner, it's the repetition. Let's say delivery costs you just $10 more than picking up the same meal. You do that twice a week. That's about $1,000 a year. And if you invested that $1,000 every year instead, earning a hypothetical 8% return for 30 years, you'd end up with roughly $113,000. That's the difference between thinking it's only $10 and thinking, what could this $10 become? That's personal finance. The goal isn't to never order food. It's to recognize when convenience is quietly competing with your financial goals. Sometimes picking up your own food is worth more than the delivery fee. Now let's talk about something much more expensive: the brand new car sitting in your driveway. Imagine you make $70,000 a year. You've been saving, you're finally doing better financially, and then you walk into a dealership. The salesperson doesn't tell you, this car costs $50,000. They say, it's only $750 a month. That sounds completely different, and that's exactly why monthly payments can be psychologically dangerous, because your brain doesn't naturally think in total cost. It thinks, can I handle $750? But 6 years of $750 payments is $54,000, and that's before considering insurance, maintenance, taxes, and everything else that comes with owning the vehicle. Now imagine, instead, that you bought a reliable 3-year-old car for substantially less. You could potentially invest the difference, and this is where the numbers become uncomfortable. Investing $750 every month for 30 years at a hypothetical 8% return produces roughly $1.1 million. That doesn't mean you should never buy a new car. It means you need to understand what you're trading. You're not just buying a car, you're potentially giving up years of compound growth, and that's a financial decision worth thinking about. Upgrading your iPhone every year. Here's a smaller purchase that can become a huge habit. Every year, a new phone arrives. New camera, new processor, new features, new design, and suddenly the phone you've been perfectly happy with for 12 months feels old. But ask yourself something. What problem is your current phone actually creating? If the answer is none, why replace it? Let's say a new phone costs $1,000. You keep it for 4 years. That's roughly $250 per year. But if you replace it every year, you're spending roughly $1,000 every year. That's a $750 difference. Now imagine investing that $750 every year instead. Again, the point isn't that phones are bad. Technology can absolutely be worth paying for. The problem is confusing wanting something new with needing something new. And your brain is very good at doing that. Marketers understand it. Your friends understand it. Social media understands it. But your investment account doesn't care which iPhone you own. High-fee investments. This one is probably the most important if you're serious about building wealth, because unlike a new phone, you might never actually see the money you're losing. Imagine you have $500,000 invested. Your fund charges a 1% annual fee. 1% doesn't sound scary, but that's $5,000 every year, and you're paying it whether the market goes up or down. Now imagine two investors. Both have $500,000. Both earn 8% before fees. One pays almost nothing. The other pays 1% every year. Over decades, that small difference can become enormous because fees don't just take money away today, they also remove money that could have compounded tomorrow. That's why I always want people to understand something. A fee is not just a fee, it's potentially decades of lost growth. Low-cost index funds became popular for this exact reason. You don't necessarily need to find the smartest investor in the room. Sometimes you simply need to stop paying unnecessary costs. If you're building wealth through a 401k, IRA, or brokerage account, go check your expense ratios. You might discover that one tiny percentage is costing you far more than you realized. Extended warranties. You're standing at the checkout counter. You just bought a $1,500 laptop. Then the salesperson asks, "Would you like 3 years of protection?" And suddenly your brain starts imagining everything that could go wrong. The screen breaks, the battery dies, you spill coffee on it, it gets dropped. So you think, maybe I should pay for the warranty. That's psychology. Fear makes the purchase feel safer. But before you buy it, ask, do I already have protection? Some credit cards offer extended warranty benefits. Some products already have manufacturer coverage. And some warranties have exclusions that make them less valuable than they appear. The company selling the warranty isn't hoping everyone uses it. They're selling it because the math works in their favor. So instead of automatically buying protection, look at the actual risk. If you can comfortably replace the product yourself, your emergency fund may already be your best form of insurance. Expensive wellness products. This industry sells something more powerful than a product. It sells hope, better sleep, more energy, a better body, less stress, more confidence, and that's why people spend so much money on it. A $25 smoothie doesn't feel like a financial problem. A $100 supplement doesn't feel like a financial problem. A $300 fitness outfit doesn't feel like a financial problem. But add them together and suddenly you're spending thousands of dollars every year trying to buy the feeling of being healthier. And here's the uncomfortable part. The things that actually improve your health are often incredibly boring. Sleep, walking, exercise, healthy food, consistency. You can't put sleep 8 hours into a luxury package and sell it for $299. So the industry sells something more exciting, a shortcut. But personal finance works the same way. The shortcut is usually more expensive than the boring strategy. Buying a house just because you're supposed to. For decades, Americans heard the same message. Renting is throwing money away. You need to buy a house. Real estate is how you build wealth. But personal finance doesn't work with one rule for everyone. Imagine buying a $600,000 house. You put down a huge amount of money. Then you have the mortgage, property taxes, insurance, maintenance, repairs, and suddenly your home is consuming a huge percentage of your monthly income. Meanwhile, maybe you could rent a similar place for significantly less. The question isn't, is buying a house good? The question is buying this house good for my financial situation? If you're going to stay for 15 years, maybe it makes sense. If you're moving in 2 years, maybe it doesn't. If buying the house prevents you from investing, that's another cost. A house can be a wonderful home, but don't confuse owning an asset with automatically making a good financial decision. Run the numbers. Buying things to impress people. This might be the most expensive psychological trap on the list, because sometimes you don't actually want the thing. You want the thing says about you. The car says you're successful. The watch says you have money. The clothes say you have status. The house says you've made it. And social media makes this even worse, because now you're constantly comparing your life to other people's highlight reels. You buy the $40,000 car, then you see the $60,000 car, then the $100,000 car. The finish line never moves closer, it moves away. So before buying something expensive, ask yourself, would I still want this if nobody else could see it? If the answer is yes, great, you probably genuinely value it. But if the answer is no, you might not be buying the product, you might be buying validation. And validation has no resale value. Fast food. Fast food used to have one huge advantage. It was cheap. That was the deal. You didn't necessarily get the best food, but you got a lot of calories for very little money. But prices have changed. A fast food meal can now easily cost $12, $14, $15 or more. And suddenly something interesting happens. The price difference between fast food and a decent local restaurant gets much smaller. So ask yourself, is this actually cheap anymore? Because sometimes you're paying restaurant-level prices for fast food quality. Again, I'm not saying never eat fast food. If you enjoy it, enjoy it. But stop making financial decisions based on prices from 10 years ago. The price has changed. Your spending habits need to change with it. Expensive status experiences. And finally, something that looks like the opposite of everything we've talked about, experiences. Because you've probably heard spend money on experiences, not things. And I actually agree, but there's a catch. An experience isn't automatically valuable just because it's an experience. Think about a major concert. The ticket is $200.
Then the fees appear. Now it's $250. Then parking, food, drinks, transportation. Suddenly your $200 experience is a $350 night. And maybe you loved it. Then it was worth it. But maybe you bought the ticket because everyone else was going. That's different. That's FOMO, and FOMO can destroy a budget surprisingly quickly. Sometimes a $30 local concert creates a better memory than a $400 stadium ticket. Sometimes the best experience isn't the most expensive one. It's simply the one you actually wanted. And now look at all 10. Food delivery, new cars, new phones, high investment fees, extended warranties, wellness products, houses, status purchases, fast food, expensive experiences. None of these things are automatically bad. That's not the lesson. The lesson is much more important. Stop asking only, can I afford it? Start asking, what am I giving up by spending this money? Because every dollar has an opportunity cost. That $10 delivery fee could become hundreds of dollars over time. That $750 car payment could potentially become more than $1 million if invested consistently for decades. That 1% investment fee could quietly cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars. And that $1,000 phone upgrade could become part of your future portfolio instead. You don't have to become cheap. You don't have to stop enjoying your life, and you definitely don't need to track every penny you spend. You just need to become more intentional, because building wealth isn't usually about one giant financial decision. It's about hundreds of small decisions that nobody notices. The coffee you didn't buy, the car you didn't finance, the phone you kept for another year, the investment fee you avoided, the purchase you waited 24 hours to make. None of those decisions feel life-changing. But compound them for 10, 20, or 30 years, and they can completely change your financial future. And that's how small choices become real wealth. Click the video on screen right now where I break down the 10 minimalist money rules that can help you save more, invest more, and actually build wealth. I'll see you over there.